It's RE Hustle, Mario.
All right, guys. Hey, RE Hustle. Yeah, we are live with Chad as always. And then we've got two really cool guests today. I've got Jimmy Burgess out of Destin, Florida. He's a growth officer with Berkshire Hathaway. And then we've got our really good friend, local Dan Washington. He is the VP of sales with Berkshire Hathaway here in the Carolinas. And one, if you will, guys, Jimmy, I'll start with you. Introduce yourself. Let everybody know who you are. And of course, we've got Chad Hawley, as always, on with us.
Yeah, Mario, it's good to be with you. I'm Jimmy Burgess. I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Beach Properties in Florida. We kind of cover the Florida Panhandle. And so we've got, I help manage some of our agents. We've got about 190 agents that just do a tremendous job of adding value to our clients and to our community. And, right now it's been very interesting to kind of watch as, when things happen and you have these disruptions like this, it really kind of shakes people. So what's been fun for me is, after all of the life lessons, listen, man, I've been in this business 25 years. If you can't tell, you have some tough times, you go through some stuff. So what's been fun about this is to be able to have some of those now, to be those, have those experiences where now that I have the ability to really to share some things with some agents that maybe they can avoid some of the potholes that I stepped in. So listen, I'm really excited to share some of that today and be on with you guys.
Awesome. Now, Dan, tell us a little bit about us. Introduce yourself there, sir.
Yeah, so I'm the Senior Vice President of Sales for Berkshire Hathaway here in the Carolinas, and we've got just under 900 agents in 4 different markets in North Carolina. Jimmy, I'm going to hit you up for some beach rentals when the beach rental market comes back. That's
love
awesome.
it.
Destin, I love Destin. I went to University of Alabama, so I've been over to Destin many times in college. Great town. So I've been with our company since 2006 when we were Prudential Carolinas Realty across the 3 major markets. And we've obviously since evolved. I've seen, the Great Recession. I've seen a brand change. I've seen everything. The branch managers all report to me and my staff is there to support all of those agents. And I think right now we've just like everybody else, I've seen Jimmy's live every day on some YouTube channel. I see him all over the place, and that's great. But we're all trying to jump in and embrace this new reality and help our agents, navigate this. And we hope that they make it out on the other end and don't get frustrated with how we're jumping into technology. We've been talking about it forever, but now we're being forced to use it every day. And prior to coming over with Prudential, I was over at Lending Tree, which also owned realestate.com before Trulia bought them. And they kind of split apart, with Lending Tree. So yeah, it's just been around it, love it, and we got a lot of great agents, and it's fun watching them all and how they're adapting right now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool what's going on right now. Real quickly before you jumped on, Jimmy, with the new change and release with you guys talking about beaches, you had mentioned something about 25% is the restaurants, and then you guys opened up your beaches wide. How's that looking down there in Destin, in the Florida area?
Yeah, what the governor came out and basically what he said is they're doing these phases. And so we had our beaches were able to open. That was a local decision. We had our beaches open last week. And then what they did as the state is the phase 1 was to open the restaurants for interior space for 25%. And then outdoor dining, they were just like, well, you have to spread out. I think it's 10 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet, whatever the CDC guidelines are for that. And man, I'll just tell you, it was, obviously we all want to be safe, but it did as I came home the other evening and I rode by, and as I came to this corner and the beach is on one side and there's this outdoor, restaurant basically that's been there forever. It's been something I've watched my whole life, and to hear some live music being played, to see some people spaced out, but having, seafood dinners with each other and just, getting back to some normalcy. And, obviously we want to be safe, but it's super exciting for me to see that, this too shall pass. We will come through this. And I think there's going to be some people that are going to come through it that are going to be stronger than they were going in. I know for me personally, family, we've had more family dinners in the last few weeks and months than we've ever had. I've got 2 daughters that were in college that we would have never had this time, and so I think there's going to be something where we're going to look back on this, and hopefully there's a shift in everything and just understanding what's important, understanding, where value is for us and where we want to place ourselves. I know I'm questioning everything. You know what I mean? Every agent I talk to, everybody I talk to is questioning, is this something that I should continue doing? What should I do now that I didn't do before? I think this is really going to shake us as a society, and there'll be shifts. And of course, there'll be winners and there'll be losers. You know what I mean? I mean, I think everybody views things one of two ways. Either they view it with the obstacles or they view it with the opportunities. And right now, the people that are looking for obstacles, they can find all they want of obstacles. And the people that are looking for opportunities, man, they are. I mean, the fields are white. There are opportunities everywhere to add value to our clientele, to the people we're around, and and to just generally as a society to be, just to be helpful with people and just be real with people. I think we've now got an opportunity we would have killed for a year ago to have this opportunity to have an impact the way we have an opportunity to have it right now.
I hear you. So them beaches filled up pretty good then, huh?
They did. I mean, obviously, what's great, I mean, it's good for disbursement too. I mean, literally, when you open up 26 miles worth of beaches that we have on Walton County, and then much less Destin, Panama City, and all of those areas, all of a sudden what happens is I mean, we were down on the beach and we're sitting there with my family watching the sun go down the other night. There's nobody within 40, 50 feet of us. There's nobody. I mean, there's a disbursement there. And I think I mentioned to you, man, the second I put my feet back in that sand after 30 days, I mean, the second that I had that salt air and I was breathing that salt air in and had a little bit of sun on my shoulders, a little burn, you know what I mean? A little something, that we all look forward to in the spring. It was like I could just finally take a deep breath and just like, everything's going to be fine. You know what I mean? And I think we're all as a society getting to that point right now where we're seeing some of those glimmers of normalcy hopefully coming back. And it's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. I saw you, Dan. You got your family out on the boat there because locally, I mean, for us, we got to hit the lakes. I've been doing that a lot with the kids. But Dan, I didn't realize you had a boat, Dan.
I'm in a boat club, so I'm very fortunate. The last couple of years, we've been in a boat club, and thank goodness it hasn't been shut down, and they've let people participate in the recreation of going out on a boat. But I think a lot of people are going stir crazy. A lot of people are getting frustrated. In North Carolina, the wildlife technically says you're not allowed to have anybody on your boat who doesn't live under your roof. Well, I was on the boat Saturday when it was almost 80 finally, and a beautiful day, and I might have been the only one on the lake following that rule. I mean, there was so just jamming. But I think everyone's just itching to get out and enjoy the 80-degree weather and have some normalcy to it. But yeah, we've been out. It's been a nice change of scenery to be able to get out once a week or so and just get out on the lake and enjoy a spin.
Yeah. Now, Jimmy, if you don't know, Dan is up at Lake Norman in North Carolina, and I keep my boat in South Carolina. Now, South Carolina is a little bit different down there. And to your point, Dan, I mean, it was wide open. Some of these boats, they usually can keep 8 bodies on there, and there might have been 15 to 20 on each boat. Yeah. And it was definitely it was a range of age. I mean, you see folks that were older out there with groups of 6 or 7 with their kids and grandkids. And then you saw the teenagers just flooding boats and just having a good old time. And it was so crazy, the amount of people we saw out there. But listen, I want to throw something out there. I did not know this about Dan, and Dan is an avid baseball player back in its day. And we like to talk about sports, and Chad is a guru in knowledge of sports. But what position did you play again at college?
I played shortstop. So I played my first year of college. I actually went to. I didn't tell you this part. I played high school baseball in Virginia, so it was all state Virginia. But that was prior to Rivals.com and the internet, and so getting out anywhere other than local Virginia was a little tough. So I actually played my first year at North Carolina Wesleyan. I played for Mike Fox, who is the coach at North Carolina, and my high school had 2,000 people at it. North Carolina Wesleyan had 800 people at it. So it was like all day, every day. And I needed something different. My dad went to Florida State. That's where I grew up, going to their baseball camps. And so I just said, you know what? I got to go somewhere different, somewhere big down south. And so that took me to Alabama. Before that, the guy who lived across the street from me was already at Bama. So he had been a freshman. So I knew that I would know somebody, and went down there and walked on and had a great time in Alabama. And, I'm a member of the A club, the athletic club, and, get down there at least once a year for a football game. They just redid the baseball stadium a couple years ago, and hopefully we'll be able to get down there in the fall, and we'll see what that looks like, this fall. But
awesome.
Love getting down there. Yeah.
Jimmy, cool. you play any sports, or what do you follow? What's your big sport down there, Florida?
Yeah, we played everything, growing up. It's kind of ironic that you mentioned that, Dan, because I went to college on a golf scholarship, and we played a lot of like Elon and and North Carolina West. We played all of those because we were NAIA school.
Yeah.
So we traveled a lot because we finished top 10 in the country every year that I was there. And so we got to travel a bunch. We played. We had tournaments in Pinehurst. We spent a lot of time up in that area and playing. But yeah, I mean, I tell you, I think it just shapes everything. I think it shapes you as far as being a team player. It shapes you as athletics to me. Man, I don't know. It made such a difference in growing up. My whole mentality was different. You know what I mean? I was very blessed. I went to school at a little smaller school in Funiac Springs, Walton High over here, where literally we had 130 graduates. But I just was really blessed to grow up with a really good group of athletes. And so we had 14 guys in my graduating class that went off and played college ball. Out of so you're talking about 10%, and now that's 10% male athletes. There weren't even so that was like 20% of all males in our school ended up going off and playing college ball in some way, shape, or form. And everything from we had one of my best friends, Dexter McNabb and Myrick Anderson. They both played at University of Florida. They were they were there through the Spurrier era. We had guys that played baseball. We had guys that played basketball. All of us played together. We kind of grew up playing sports together. And then as we grew older, all of a sudden they kept getting bigger. You know what I mean? And so all of a sudden I kept staying the same. And so all of a sudden, my freshman year in high school, we won state my sophomore year in football. And all of a sudden I looked around, I was like, man, Dexter's 6'3", 250. And I'm like 5'3", and like, maybe $120. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, this ain't So obviously I shifted. I played point guard and basketball all through school with a tremendous amount of great athletes there. And then, it was just, we just did everything. I mean, I know how kids do. They play these, they get so focused on all this. But man, I feel like, the hand-eye coordination that baseball gave me the same thing that helped with golf. You know what I mean? The team aspect of basketball and the physical training that we did, because we didn't train a lot, where it was the aerobic training with basketball season, it was the lifting weights with football. It was like it was a balance that I think sometimes kids miss nowadays, that just, I think, helped us be better at everything. And by focusing on one, I think sometimes kids get so focused on one sport that they don't develop fully their athletic ability, and they all play to each other sometimes.
Hey, that's a good point because it's so funny. You ever watch the major league ballparks and they'll bring out like a Dwayne Wade to throw the first pitch and he can't even throw a baseball? You're like, what? How's that possible?
I was just gonna say the same thing.
When we were kids, you're playing all sports through the seasons you can play. Nowadays, they're training you to play as a professional, and they don't even care about all the other ones. I don't know how they make it.
I know, yeah. And we did. Even when we were in college, I don't know what y'all did, but we had a lot of, with our college group, we did a lot of stuff on our own. Where the basketball team, would play. They would try to come over and play golf with us, and we would go play basketball with them in the evenings. And we would, we played tennis, and different things. Just, it was like we were all trying to grow together. And then with the smaller school, when we were at the smaller school, man, you weren't getting away from people. So we were constantly pushing each other in a way that I was kind of used to. I was used to that in a small school. I had a lot of positive peer pressure, athletically, socially, everything, because of the group that we were with. Then when I got to the smaller college, I'm like, damn, I think we had a total of 1,600 in that college, at that time, University of Mobile College back then. We didn't have that many people, and so constantly we were pushing each other. So I moved from a positive peer pressure athletically and academically to the same thing in college, which I think was pretty healthy for me, at least.
Yeah, for Dan, it's probably 1,600 in each class at Alabama.
Right, yes.
Well, talking about sports, my dad is a retired colonel in the Marines. He still works up in D.C. in the intelligence community. And so I moved around as a kid all the time. I lived in Okinawa, I lived in California, lived in Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. And so sports was the way that I adapted to these new communities. I got there and got on a field and started playing soccer or baseball or basketball or something with kids. And that's how I adapted and got to know people right away versus sitting inside playing a video game and not, socializing. That was the way I became a social kid, So
Dan, when were you in Tuscaloosa?
I graduated 98.
So yeah, so you were there. I mean, we were there. I had some friends of mine that played high school ball with us. Tommy Johnson ended up there. That won national championship as a defensive back up there. He's down here now as a coach locally back home. But yeah, I mean, it was a great. I mean, it was such a. I mean, for me, see, you got to understand. I grew up in Northwest Florida, and like you're talking about, as my brother went to FSU. Now you got to understand. I graduated from high school in 1988. So I was like Deion Sanders, Derrick Brooks, Charlie Ward. I mean, this was like
my dad was born in Thomasville, Georgia. So I used to go to Thomasville all the time, where Charlie Ward lived. And
I had an uncle that was the football coach in Thomasville for like 20 years, or second cousin, and they won like 4 state championships in there. I mean, he was like it was crazy, and it was so football driven in South Georgia and Northwest Florida at that time. It was crazy how much it was, driven by football.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But you got to understand, Northwest Florida during that time when I was growing up, I mean, we had Emmitt Smith running the ball in Pensacola to Escambia. We had Ampley and Chipley. We had, all that crew that was with me in Defuniak. We had Danny Warfel a few years later in Fort Walton. We had, it was like, literally, you go to a high school football game and you're sitting there watching Hall of Famers, Heisman Trophy winners. Literally, you come out of that kind of competition and all of a sudden you go in the real world and the real world punches you in the face. And you're like, man, I've been punched in the face all my life. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like just another day at practice. You know what I mean? So I think that was the thing too, is with athletically, the continuous repetition of practice and the continuous repetition of going and doing stuff that you didn't really want to do, but you knew those basic fundamental things, continuing to do those, that when you did get into place to play the game, that you had the complete confidence you were ready. That's the stuff we try to carry over into everything right now, is that discipline that I learned at a young age from coaches that would be fired on the spot if they treated kids the way they treated us back then. You know what I mean? That's tough. It's crazy to think how soft these kids are. But
those are good points. You guys, obviously, I think they're huge attributes that both of you guys carry in your leadership roles for our professional community. But on a personal question, are you still slamming down on people like a coach would slam on us as athletes?
If they'll let me.
And why
not? No, my message the last 6-7 weeks has just been, control what you can control. And we had a big sales meeting this morning. We had an outside speaker, and she mentioned that as well, just in terms of what builders and developers are seeing across the state. But, for managers, they got to keep coaching their players. They got to keep recruiting. They got to keep doing the things that they can control. They can't control the stay orders. They can't control that. Maybe we can't take a listing today, or maybe we can't show a property today. And, this too shall pass, as Jimmy said, and we'll get back to those things. But the things they can control, the coaching sessions, the recruiting, that's been my message to my managers, is you got to keep getting up every day and putting your A game on and control what you can control.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm with you, Dan. I think the thing that we're trying to do is instead of a lot of our goals, we're resetting for a lot of people. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to set daily goals, the daily wins. We're trying to do the leading indicator stuff. From a real estate business, obviously we kind of know it's a 90-day kind of cycle. And so typically the reason why agents and, their business will kind of do the roller coaster ride is because they get so busy that they don't do the daily things they need to do to, add value to people, prospect, have the conversations, go out there and do CMAs, do the basics, the fundamental stuff. And so we try to set daily patterns up where we know that if they trust the process, they do these things. It's an if-then business. If you add value in these ways, it's probably going to be a 60, 90-day cycle when you see these things start coming together. But those are things like what Dan said. Those are things we can control. We can control how we add value to people right now. And man, more than ever, people want to talk. You can't have it. You can only have 5 to 7 really good conversations right now, because we've got conversations that would typically be, yeah, hey, listen, great info. Thanks for letting me know. I'm really busy. I'll talk to you next week. Now it's like 30-minute calls, and they're going into how's your kids? It's a deeper, we have an opportunity to really build relationships that we didn't have an opportunity to do even 2 months ago. So yeah, I think like Dan says, control what you can control daily. Feel like you got wins. Those little wins become, they just build momentum.
Right on, right on. Well, let me ask you guys quickly, since you're both here and obviously pivotal to a lot of people. What is one or two or just a couple of great positives that you guys have learned, maybe personally or professionally, during this pandemic? Dan, what was one of the biggest positives that you could take away?
Well, to me, I think it's been how our team has stepped up and adjusted quickly to supporting our agents in a different way. I think that I've always known we've had a good, support system. I've always known we've had great players, but the marketing team, training team, how they've quickly adjusted and pivoted to provide a level of value and continue to provide it every day. Because the way I look at it is right now, and things are getting better, but I look at it as you have three segments of agents. You have some like you who have said, hey, I'm going to embrace this and make the most of it and go out there. You have some that on the complete polar opposite who have put their head in the sand and said, I'm not going out of my house. This is going to crush my business. And then you got some in the middle that are just, they're doing some things, but they're still every day not bringing the same enthusiasm and coming to work on purpose every day. So, I think that as we come out of this, we're going to see the same thing. And I think the people who have embraced it and have led and been engaged are going to strive right away when we come out of this. And so, but for me, I think our team just adapting and pivoting and providing the same value has been the biggest thing I've seen that's been great. And I think that didn't happen by chance. I think we've attracted talented individuals to our organization, and we've continued to tell them that that's their number one priority every day is to provide value to our team, to our agents.
Awesome.
I tell you, Mario, I think the biggest thing for me is I've realized that who you spend time with and who you align yourself with is more important than it ever has been. And I feel like we've heard that you're the average of the 5 people. Well, what we've tried to do is we've tried to take and make sure A players want to be around A players. I mean, let's just be real. You know what I mean? And so what we've tried to do is we've tried to take and position the people in group calls. So we've taken segments of our market because we cover about a 200-mile stretch here, which is kind of crazy because of the density, low density in our area. So we've taken people in different markets. We've done these Zoom calls, and we're doing these little 30-minute mastermind sessions, and just getting the ability to hear what's working. We've tried to make sure that we're sharing that information. So we're taking the success stories that an agent has here and sharing it over here. There's 2 things that I think we're trying to do. Psychologically, we want people to understand that that really there is still business being done. People still need houses. People still need to sell houses. And so from that standpoint, yes, the pie maybe have made, and it didn't in our area, but in some areas it may have slimmed up for a little bit. But when this does pass, I think the people that have taken the time to sharpen their axe, to build relationships with other people in the industry, to really refine their businesses, man, we've never had, in my career, I can't remember having an opportunity like this to really catch our breath and say, okay, is this working that I do? How much time do I spend on this activity typically on a daily basis? What are the areas that maybe I can hire someone to do that is a $10 to $12 an hour activity that I can go do $20 to $70 an hour activity, or whatever it is for the agent, whatever they figure out. I just think right now, for me, the biggest takeaway I've got is that we've constantly got to surround ourselves with the right people that are going to get us in the right mindset to be able to be all that we're supposed to be. And I think it starts immediately by being purposeful on, man, this is why I'm super excited to be with you guys today. I mean, listen, I'll come out of this more excited about the day just because, and it's not even about what we talk about. It's just the energy y'all have, you know what I mean, about the positivity and focusing on the opportunities and where are the things that we're getting better at. Those are the things that I think are that I'm going to come out valuing even more is the relationships. I mean, listen, Mario, you and I knew each other before this, you know what I mean? But we've talked more in the last 8 weeks. And man, what's happened is now I've got a better feel for your understanding of business so that now, and I hope you feel the same way because we've done this. I'll call you and say, hey man, what are you seeing with this? What do you think about this? Those are the things that we've got to do as a community to get ourselves and refine ourselves. It talks about iron sharpens iron. I mean, but iron, you got to have some more iron. I mean, you can't just sharpen yourself. So it's critical to have some other people you can run some things by. And I think this has given us that opportunity for the people that are stepping up. And now more than ever, who'd have thought we could jump on, here we are, on a Tuesday morning, jumping online in 4 different places, and we're able to share like this. This is what's exciting to me is that shift that we're seeing with everybody.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see a lot of these things continue when we get back to business as normal. Because you think about it, we all went to convention. Right now, normally our agents it's spring market. They got their head down. They're turning in deals. They wouldn't be doing this. So I think when we come back to this, they're going to continue to see the value of what this has provided and use it as an opportunity to get better and learn going forward. So I agree with you.
Absolutely.
Dad, what's a positive for you, brother? Share something for us.
You know, one of the big things as far as business goes, start with that. Just like, you know, kind of what Jimmy was talking before is, you know, being able to kind of look at our business, see what was working for us. You know, you and I have talked for a couple of years now about doing more video, and, you know, just time always got away from us, right? Like we were just so busy with business and recruiting, everything else, that we were never able to do stuff like this. And, you know, this situation has given us that time, forced us to adapt and do it. So I think the biggest positive for me is just showing like our adaptability, being able to adapt our business practices, some of our models, fine tuning a lot of stuff so that we can take advantage of, you know, these platforms when we do come out of this and able to go back kind of full speed. You know, personal level, it's been able to, you know, just like a lot of people said, you know, spending some more time with family. You know, I've got, you know, 22-year-old daughter lives in Charleston, South Carolina. It's been out of my house for a long time, but, you know, I talk to her more now than I did for probably the last 2 years. You know, we're probably talking, you know, every 2 or 3 days, if not every day, via FaceTime or a phone call. You know, I have an 18-year-old daughter that still lives with me. I think our relationship has actually improved. We had some rough spots here over the last, you know, few months or a year, but here recently, you know, it's kind of just made me reassess my priorities as far as dealing with them. So, I mean, that's been a huge thing for me.
That's awesome. Great share. Great share. Yeah, I think for real quickly, another thing I could share for this positive to your point, Jimmy and Dan, is being able to have these types of, you know, intimate conversations with leaders in our community, where usually we have to wait for those conventions to pop up, and then you kind of pull these people away for a coffee and be able to have that conversation. Though this was available, it just wasn't there. The pandemic kind of forced us into it. And I think that's my personal favorite thing of all this, is being able to have these Zoom calls and keep it real and keep it, you know, super personal, and be able to have these energy meetings just to keep bumping things through and sharing ideas. And yes, to your point, I think I'm going to do everything I can to keep this moving forward and keep touching different people in different markets all throughout the world, and see what we can do, not just in real estate alone, but in people in general, and just being able to connect on a whole deeper level. But with that being said, you know, the whole point of this cast is to talk about screw ups that turned into buildups and life lessons. You know, I'm wondering if you guys would be willing to share some life lessons with ourselves and some of the viewers that are out there that helped build you guys to who you are today. Dan, you want to start with us?
Yeah. So, you know, I mentioned my dad was in the Marines, retired colonel. And, you know, I think one of the things, thinking back to, you know, I was my birthday's in October, so I was a young high schooler. So, you know, so I was 16 when all my other friends were 17 in the same grade. And so, you know, maybe I was a little more immature about some decisions I made. But, you know, one of the things to me that I always think back on is, my dad was gone my junior and senior year of high school because he was at the first Gulf War. And so, you know, one evening, you know, I actually lived behind our garage. We had like a maid's quarters, and that was my bedroom. So it was very easy to sneak in and out of there. So one night I went down the street to my buddy's house, and, you know, it wasn't anything crazy where, you know, we're in jail or anything like that. But, you know, it was 3 a.m. when I decided to come home, and all the lights on the house are on, you know. And so my mom clearly discovered that I wasn't home, you know, at the time. Thank God she didn't call the cops. But, you know, what that did is, you know, 2 days later when I talked to my dad, who's in the Persian Gulf, after he had just found out from my mom the bad thing I did, you know, not only did I get a talking to, but I got a life lesson on being a leader and stepping up in that moment. And you know, I'm the oldest brother. I have a younger brother. But just, you know, being a leader of the household at that time. And, you know, I never forgot that conversation, and I was a better kid for it. But, you know, just one of the many moments where, you know, I probably made a bad decision growing up.
Wow. Great share. Jimmy, what you got, man?
So, it's ironic to me, and I'm really watching these trends because, history typically repeats itself. If I look back on what happened with the stock market with the dot-com bust, when I look back at what happened as far as a limited amount of inventory or rotation of cash into real estate, 2001, 2002, 2003, I'm really going to be watching this to see and make sure that I don't make some of the same mistakes I did back then, as the market, in my opinion, has the potential to continue to escalate, especially potential for prices if we continue to have limited inventory and strong demand. Back then, I'd been in real estate for a while, got back, I had a shift. We sold a family company. And so I went in as a commercial lender for about a year. Had never really been on salary. And so I went to after the first 7-8 months, because of the context I had in the real estate business with builders and developers and everything, my loan portfolio was growing pretty fast. And for this little regional bank, I went to the CEO and I said, "Hey, how about a raise?" And he said, "Hey, Jimmy, don't worry. We only give raises at the end of the year. But bank's going to take care of you. If you've ever had an employer, which I've never really had many of those, tell you they're going to take care of you, you know how this is going to end, right?" So we go and continue. I'm super excited. I go and I meet with him, and he says, "We got you a 5% raise." And I just remember sitting there. I'd always been, I'd never been not on salary, on salary. I'd never had that, So, when they were taking like Monday, Lincoln's birthday off, I was like, what in the heck are we doing? Y'all need somebody to sweep the floor. I felt bad, So, so we go through that. So I got really focused at that point. I knew everything was going to change. I had to change me. So I started really diving in. I know y'all have heard the quote from, and I'd heard it 1,000 times before this, but where Zig Ziglar says, if you just help enough other people get what they want, you have everything you want. For some reason, it just kind of hit me in my soul. I said, well, listen, I got to change me. And so I began to just ask people how I could help them from a standpoint of these people I was doing loans for, these builders, these developers. And all of a sudden I realized the builders were like, yeah, if I just had more lots, then I could, do more construction. And the developers were like, if I could just have builders buy lots sooner, then I could then fund my developments. And all of a sudden I started putting this together, and I ended up starting to put some of these development programs together and sales together while I'm still getting ready to leave the bank, because I still have my license. I was only 6 months, 9 months removed from being in business. And all of a sudden I put one deal together, and I went and I told the bank, I appreciate everything. Didn't want to burn any bridges, but listen, I think I've got to take advantage of this opportunity. This is right as the market's taking off. And so all of a sudden, 2002, 2003, what was my annual salary at the bank becomes my monthly salary. The next year it becomes my every 2 week salary. And then the next thing you know, I'm rolling along in 2005, and my annual salary was almost my weekly salary. It was crazy what was happening. You know what I mean? From that standpoint, making millions of dollars selling real estate. But here's what can happen sometimes is when that happens and things change so fast, you can forget who you are. And I kind of lost who I was. I lost my focus on other people. And, just to be perfectly blunt, then the market changes, because we know as quick as it went up and as quick as it can go up, it can come down, and it did. And because I had shifted, and I'd shifted from being about other people, I was like, I'm going to get mine kind of attitude, you know what I mean? That all of a sudden this happens, and I was caught off guard, and I'd made decisions that were selfish. And so 2009, I don't remember the date, May 9th, 2009, I'm sitting, here we go, it's fixing to be here pretty quick. I was sitting in bankruptcy court with my wife with $500 to my name. And I'm sitting there ashamed. I'm sitting there feeling so guilty about putting my family in this situation after everything. And this stuff doesn't just happen overnight. It took me 3 years to unwind and figure out I wasn't going to be able to fix this, It changed me. It changed my relationship with my wife. Physically, I lost my voice. Back in the day, I got to be honest, though, back then I was running pretty hard. So, I'm smoking, I'm probably drinking too much. You know what I'm saying? It was the whole deal. And so I lost my voice, ended up at Vanderbilt Voice Clinic in Nashville without a voice for 2 months. My voice, all I got, you know what I mean? It's not like I got another fallback. You know what I mean? I'm a salesman like we all are, And so I remember sitting up there, and I was just angry, man. I was angry at everybody. I was angry at partners. I was angry at clients, I was angry at God, just to be honest. And I remember sitting there, and they told me after we went through all that, they found a mass on my throat at 35 years old. And I remember at 39 years old, just sitting there and thinking, never felt alone that way. You know what I mean? They closed that door because they rushed me over there to do the MRI on my throat. And the nurses in the other room, man, for the first time, dude, I feel this tear start running down my, and man, you got to understand, I was so hard right then. And I started realizing that everything, everybody I was mad at, man, it wasn't about them. I was pointing one finger, and I had 4 coming back at me. And I literally, I'm just be real. I prayed like I never prayed before. I said, God, just please forgive me. You know what I mean? And literally, as I got through that, I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell my mom and stepfather who were there with me when I walked out of that MRI. But I was a different man from that day forward. I realized, what it meant for me to be who I was supposed to be. And it didn't happen immediately, but I just remember thinking, coming out of that the next day, because they had me on y'all see the rappers have the syrup, the codeine syrup, but that's what they had me on for my throat, and that stuff's good. That stuff is dangerous. So I was still on that. So I came back home because they did the biopsy, they did all that stuff, and they said, hey, it looks like a clear cyst. We're going to do some things. A month later, it was gone. And my health began to come back. And it wasn't just my health that came back. My relationship with everybody around me began to come back. I began to appreciate and understand that my wife meant it when she said for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, for all those things. She actually meant it. So now I leave that situation with a new appreciation for my family, my kids. And listen, it wasn't I was being crazy and running crazy, but literally I was like, I'm going to get mine. So the opportunity was there. I was leaving the house at 4 o'clock in the morning, kissing my kids on the forehead before they woke up, not getting home until 10, 11 o'clock at night, kissing them on the forehead because they were already in bed. And this would go on for a week. And so all of a sudden I began to really focus on what was important. And when I began to shift back to focusing on the people, everything else began to turn around. And so it really, I think these type of times in life, when we have a shift, this is the time when we really have an opportunity to do some self-evaluation, make some adjustments, realize what's truly important. And I will tell you this, every single time I've been through adversity, it sucked going through it. And there's a lot of people that are going through some adversity right now. Every single time when I finally got to a place where I evaluated me and made some adjustments so that I could get different results, I came out better than I was before. So I'm hoping that with this shift and what we've been seeing these last 8 weeks, I'm doing everything in my power to evaluate every area of my life right now and make sure that I'm being all that I was created to be. And I think that everybody that does that, man, we're going to come out of this. I've been through stuff. That's the whole idea of this podcast, is talking about things we've come through. Yeah. This will be the story. And we have the ability to write the story about the actions we take today. And that's the story we'll be telling a year from now, in my opinion. So
that's a fantastic share.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. I think, there's a lot of things that you put out there. And I think through adversity, I always lead through failure. And I hope that I train my children to do the same thing. My wife will fight me on a lot of decisions like, whoa, don't let him jump off that porch. I'm like, I want him to jump off that porch. It may be a crazy way to think about it, but if I don't teach him to be hesitant, I'd rather him be, let's make that step. Let's take that leap of faith, as I did in this video as a small example, just taking that leap of faith. I walked into the office and on a Sunday, I think it was, and I was like, Chad, we're doing video. He's like, what? It was like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. He's like, well, one thing I need to do is get my coffee. And then let's talk about what you want to talk about. And we just jumped into it. And I think, if we don't have adversity and if we don't have challenges in life as past athletes, I think that's what has made me who I am today. If I wasn't an athlete, I probably wouldn't be where I am because of learning through how to deal with challenges and how to get around those challenges and find better ways and always look for the brighter side.
Let me add this too. I would say this, and this goes back to our athletics. Growth and comfort cannot coexist.
True.
They cannot coexist. And so what happens sometimes is it forces us to get uncomfortable to be able to grow. And what's happening now with people that are finally choosing to do video, with people that are finally making those calls to past clients that they hadn't talked to in 3 years, what's happening is those uncomfortable things are the very things that are going to help us grow the most. And so we've got to find those areas that we were hesitant in and be aggressive moving in there. We've got to find those areas that make us uncomfortable, because odds are that's where the growth is. That's where you're going to see the growth going into the future, is when you have those times where you make yourself and force yourself. And sometimes society does it to us, but the most disciplined people I know that go out there and hate running but get up and run in the morning, the people that hate working out that go work out, eventually what happens is that growth, because of the growth, they begin to love it. It's a shift. And I think that's the same thing we're seeing in all areas of people's lives right now, is they've been uncomfortable, but now here we are. It doesn't take 8 weeks like we've been holed up to change a habit. So now's the time, really, I think, to dive in on getting uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Well, look, in closing, I know you got a lot of things on your schedules. Real quickly, share one thing with us that you guys are looking forward to doing once we are back into the normal routine of what life was before and what it will be now? Dan, what is the one thing that you're like, I can't wait for this to be done, that I can do either independently or with my family or whatever it may be?
You know, I'm looking forward to a date night with my wife. We've got 4 kids here that have been holed up, and you know, we try to get out on the boat and do some different things, but we're still all together. You know, we go on hikes together, and I will go on a run or walk with my wife, but just to get out of the neighborhood and go sit at a restaurant and enjoy some peace and quiet, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Hey,
You too, man.
that's a good one there. That's a good point there. I'm gonna have to jump on that one too. Jimmy, what you got, man? What are you looking forward to?
Dan, hang on one second. Let me write that down, Dan. I gotta jump on that too.
Coming up, y'all better write that down now.
Dan, don't even doubt it. Dan, I'm gonna text you, Dan, this week, because you know our restaurant's open. So man, I'll probably tonight. I might even slip out and do that. But you know, seriously, I mean, listen, my mom is 74 years old, man. I'm looking forward to hugging my mom. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I mean, I'm looking forward to not being hesitant around people. You know, I'm looking forward to, man, I grew up in the South, you know, I mean, I'm a hugger, you know what I mean? I mean, I want to be around a group of people and not worry about it. I want to have a beach bonfire and have 60 people there. You know what I mean? I want to go listen to live music and not worry about bumping into somebody. I just want to go back to a place where I think as human beings, we're all created to be a part of groups. And so this has really pulled us away from that. And so, man, my mom's birthday is on Sunday, on Mother's Day. And man, the whole idea and the concept of me not being able to drive 25 minutes and hug her, it eats me up, man. You know what I mean? And so I'm looking forward to that, not having to hesitate on doing the things that just grow us together and keep us feel like we're connected. That's for me the biggest thing.
Wow. Well, I appreciate this, guys. Chad, what are you looking forward to real quickly?
Oh man. Well, you know, Mario, you know me the best out of these guys. So you know I'm a kind of a homebody anyway. So this quarantine really hasn't been much of a burden, I guess, to me, because it's pretty normal for me. But honestly, being forced to do it is like, wow, maybe I do want to go out a little more, you know, go out to a restaurant, go have dinner with friends and stuff like that. So I think for me, it is trying to kind of get back out there. Like kind of what Jimmy was talking about with the uncomfortability, right? Some of that stuff, I think I've been doing it so long that it got a little uncomfortable sometimes going out or, you know, doing that kind of thing. So kind of forcing myself to, you know, get back out and going out a little bit more, hanging out with friends, going over to, you know, barbecues. I mean, honestly, you know, here in the South too, Jimmy, you know, going for a barbecue. I think that's what I miss, you know, like a nice cookout, have a couple cocktails or, you know, a beer or two and just hanging out with a whole group of friends versus just seeing Mario's face every day.
Well, listen, guys, man, I really appreciate y'all sharing, getting deep with us and sharing some knowledge that you guys have, man. This has been fun for me, and I appreciate Dan, especially you, for getting me into this new lifestyle that I have with Berkshire family, and Jimmy, getting to know you better as time grows, and even more so because of this. So I'm thankful for that as well. And Chad, man, thank you for being a best friend for 20 some odd years and keeping this running and being my running mate, even though I got some crazy ideas. I made him do fitness the other day, built a koi pond. But anyways, he's running with it. But guys, have a great week, great weekend, and I appreciate it. I'm going to keep watching everything you guys do.
Yes, that's a two-way street, bro. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Chad. Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye.